In 1961, a father in the Adirondacks tied a 5-cent whistle around his daughter's neck before she stepped out of the station wagon. 3 hours later, that whistle was the only reason searchers found her before dark. Today, we hand kids a phone with no bars and call it preparedness. But here's the twist. Number 11 on this list was standard practice in every scout troop in America, and the Forest Service now says it's still the single best defense against a bear. Number 3 has been proven correct by the National Weather Service, and almost nobody follows it anymore. These 25 tricks kept families alive in country with no cell towers, no GPS, no rescue helicopters. Before we start, hit subscribe because some of this might matter to you someday. Let's count down the 25 camping tricks America forgot. Number 25, the rain trench. Before anyone unrolled a sleeping bag, Dad walked the perimeter of the tent with a folding shovel and cut a narrow trench, maybe 4 inches deep, sloping downhill and away. It took 11 minutes. It looked like busy work to the kids stacking firewood. Then the storm came through at 2 in the morning, and the water that would have pooled under the canvas floor ran around the tent instead and down the slope into the brush. Every family that skipped it learned the same lesson the hard way. A wet sleeping bag in the mountains is not an inconvenience. It's the first domino in hypothermia, even in July. Modern campgrounds ban digging, and modern tents have bathtub floors. But ask anyone who camped in surplus canvas. The trench was insurance you dug once and never regretted. Number 24, seasoning the canvas. A wall tent in 1955 cost around $18, real money, when a man cleared 60 a week, and nobody expected it to keep out rain on its own. So every spring, fathers mixed shaved paraffin wax into turpentine or mineral spirits until it dissolved, then brushed it into the canvas and hung the tent in the sun for 2 days to cure. The wax filled the weave. Water beaded and rolled instead of soaking through. There was a second rule that went with it, and it's the one people forget. Never touch the inside of a wet canvas wall. A fingertip pressed against damp cotton breaks the surface tension and creates a wick that drips for hours. Kids learned that by getting yelled at once. A properly seasoned tent lasted 20 years. We buy nylon now that delaminates in 5, and we throw it in a landfill without a second thought. Number 23, the balsam bough bed. Before foam pads, before air mattresses that hiss flat by 3 in the morning, families slept on evergreen. In the North Woods, you cut armloads of balsam or spruce tips, then shingled them into the tent floor, butt ends down, curved side up, each layer overlapping the last like roof shingles, 8 inches deep. It took 20 minutes and cost nothing. What it did mattered more than comfort. The dead air trapped in those needles insulated you from the ground, and the ground is what steals your heat all night. Conduction pulls warmth out of a body far faster than cold air does. That's why a kid could sleep in a thin cotton bag and wake up warm. Mothers said it was the best sleep they got all year. You can't cut boughs on public land now, and rightly so, but the physics never changed. Number 22, the ground cloth tuck. This one is so small it sounds like nothing, and it saved more nights than any gadget on the market. Your father laid the tarp under the tent, then walked the edges and folded every inch of it back under, so no plastic stuck out past the tent wall anywhere, not one corner. The reason is brutally simple. Any tarp lip that extends past the roof line becomes a gutter. Rain runs down the canvas, hits that lip, and gets funneled directly beneath you. You wake at 4 in the morning floating on a cold puddle with no idea where it came from. Families who tucked stayed dry through the same storm that flooded the site next door. It's still true tonight with a $200 tent. Watch any campground after a thunderstorm and you'll spot the wet ones instantly. They left the tarp hanging out. Number 21. Boots on the stakes. Every evening, boots came off and went upside down on two sticks driven into the ground beside the tent flap, soles to the sky. And every single morning, before a foot went in, you picked up each boot and banged it hard against a rock twice. Kids thought it was superstition. It wasn't. Scorpions in the Southwest, wolf spiders everywhere, and in the Ozarks and the Appalachians, more than one family found a copperhead curled in the warm dark of a work boot. The upside-down trick did double duty. Nothing crawls in and dew doesn't collect inside. A pair of leather boots ran $9 and was expected to last a decade, so keeping them dry was economics too. Kids today shove sneakers in the vestibule and slide them on half asleep. The old rule took 4 seconds. Shake them out. Every time. No exceptions. Number 20. The whistle on a shoestring. Here's where it gets interesting. Every child under 12 got a whistle on a bootlace around their neck before they were allowed past the fire ring, and it was not a toy. Blow it and you get in trouble. Blow it because you are lost or hurt, and the whole camp comes running. That was the deal, and it was enforced. Here's why it worked so well. A child's scream carries maybe a quarter mile through timber and gives out after a few minutes because a frightened kid's throat closes and their voice cracks. A cheap pea whistle carries over a mile through the same trees, cuts across water and wind, and a scared 6-year-old can blow one for hours with almost no effort. Search and rescue teams still say the whistle is the highest value item you can put on a child in the woods. It cost a nickel. It still costs about $2. Number 19. Hug a tree. The instruction was 1 sentence long, and parents drilled it into kids until they could say it in their sleep. If you don't know where you are, sit down at the nearest big tree and stay there. Don't walk. Don't look for the road. Don't be brave. Sit, blow the whistle, and let us find you. The reason is cold arithmetic. A stationary child is a point on a map, and searchers close a circle around a point. A walking child is a moving target, and every hour they wander, the search area doesn't grow by a little. It quadruples. Kids who stayed put were found in hours. Kids who tried to be helpful got found in days, or not at all. In 1981, this got formalized into a national program taught in schools, but families in the Sierras were teaching it in the 1930s. Sit down, hug the tree. Number 18, the coffee can kit. An empty 2-pound Maxwell house can with a plastic lid became the most important object in a kid's pack. Inside, a whistle, a candle stub, strike, anywhere, matches sealed in a jar with a striker glued to the lid, a folded square of aluminum foil, a garbage bag with a face hole cut out, and a chocolate bar. The can itself was the point. It boiled water. It carried water. The lid flashed sunlight like a mirror. Punch 2 holes, and it's a lantern. The kit cost about 40 cents and fit in the bottom of a canvas rucksack. Fathers checked it before every trip, like a pre-flight inspection. Compare that with what a kid carries into the woods today, which is usually a phone that reports no service and dies at 8 p.m. The coffee can never died. It never needed a signal. It just sat there being ready. Number 17. Wool over cotton, always. First pattern break. Here's the one that still gets people killed. Grandma packed wool, and everybody complained because wool itched and cotton was soft, and it was August anyway. She packed it anyway. Army surplus wool blankets sold for $3 after the war, and every family had a stack in the trunk. Here's the science she knew by feel and couldn't have explained. Wool fibers are crimped and hollowish, so they trap air, even when soaked, and they'll hold as much as 30% of their weight in water while still keeping you warm. Wet cotton does the opposite. It collapses, holds water against your skin, and strips heat out of your body about 25 times faster than dry air. That's why search teams have a saying, "Cotton kills." It's not a slogan, it's a fatality pattern. Summer hypothermia in the mountains is real. It happens at 50 degrees in a drizzle, and it took your itchy wool blanket to prevent it. Number 16, the blood circle. Before a kid was handed an axe or a hatchet, they had to do one thing: hold the tool at arm's length and turn a full, slow circle. If the swinging end could touch anybody at all, nobody chopped. They called it the blood circle. And the name was intentional because a 9-year-old remembers a name like that forever. There was a companion rule, too. You never chop toward yourself, you kneel to split kindling instead of standing, and you never, ever hand someone a hatchet blade first. In a camp 40 miles from a hospital on gravel roads, a bad hatchet cut wasn't an emergency room visit. It was a 2-hour drive with a towel and a prayer. So the rules were absolute, and the consequences for breaking them were swift. We've mostly stopped letting kids touch sharp things at all, which means they reach 18 with no respect for one and no idea how to hold it. Number 15, fire ring down to mineral soil. Building the fire wasn't the first job. Digging out its floor was. You scraped away every bit of duff, pine needles, leaf litter, and the dark, spongy stuff underneath until you hit bare, gray-brown mineral soil, then ringed it with rocks pulled from dry ground, never from a creek. 2 reasons, both of them serious. Forest duff burns underground, silent and invisible, and can creep sideways for days before surfacing 40 feet away in a root system. That's how a family campfire in 1949 becomes a headline. And creek rocks hold trapped moisture in their pores. Heat them, and the steam has nowhere to go, so they crack and throw fragments across the site at rifle speed. Old campers had scars proving it. It took 15 minutes, and it prevented the 2 failures that turn a good weekend into a tragedy. Now we drop a fire in a pit somebody else dug and never look underneath. Number 14, the hot rock at the foot of the bag. Second pattern break, and this one sounds like folklore until you try it. Before turning in on a cold night, Mom pulled a smooth, dry stone from the edge of the fire ring, the size of a loaf of bread, warmed it slowly for an hour, wrapped it in a wool sock or a flour sack towel, and slid it to the bottom of the bedroll. It radiated heat for 6 or 7 hours. Here's the part people miss. The feet are where warmth is won or lost. Cold feet trigger the body to clamp down circulation in the extremities, and once that starts, a kid shivers all night, burns calories fighting it, and wakes exhausted and vulnerable. Warm feet, and the whole system stays open. A wrapped rock did what a $200 sleeping bag upgrade does for free. The rule was strict though, dry rock only, wrapped thick, never straight from the coals. Number 13, the lantern rule. That Coleman lantern cost $9 in 1958, and it lived by 3 commandments. It hangs high on a hook or a wire between trees, never on the tent. It gets filled outside, in daylight cold, never near a flame, and it never ever comes inside a closed tent. Kids asked why. Because a lantern in the tent sounded wonderful. The answer was that a burning lantern eats oxygen and puts out carbon monoxide, which has no smell. And in a sealed canvas box, you don't wake up to notice. Families died learning that in the 1950s, and the lesson traveled campground to campground faster than any safety pamphlet. Hanging it high did something else too. It threw light across the whole site instead of one table, so parents could count kids at a glance from anywhere. The propane heater in your tent right now is the same gamble with a friendlier logo. Number 12, the nightly tick check. Last thing before bed, kids stripped to their skivvies in the lantern light and got gone over head to toe by a parent with a comb and a flashlight. Behind the ears, the hairline, the waistband, the backs of the knees. It was humiliating at 9 and non-negotiable at 15. Nobody in 1955 had heard the word Lyme, but they'd all heard of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and they knew somebody who'd had it. The removal method was as important as the check. Fine-tipped tweezers, close to the skin, steady straight pull, no twisting. The lit match and petroleum jelly tricks you've heard about were already being called out as bad practice by old woodsmen because they make the tick regurgitate into the wound. That 2-minute ritual by the fire is still, today, the single most effective thing you can do about tick-borne illness. Most families now skip it entirely and hope for the best. Number 11. The bear hang. Nothing edible, scented, or interesting slept anywhere near the tent. Food, cookware, toothpaste, gum wrappers, the shirt somebody cooked bacon in, all of it went into a duffel, and the duffel went up. 12 feet off the ground minimum, 6 feet out from the trunk, on a rope tossed over a limb with a rock in a sock. Fathers threw and missed and swore and threw again. It looked ridiculous. It was completely correct. A bear's nose is somewhere around 2,000 times more sensitive than ours, and a black bear can smell a candy bar in a tent from over a mile away. The Forest Service still recommends the same hang today with the same numbers, and a bear-proof canister is just a hang you don't have to throw. The families who ignored it didn't get mauled usually. They got their tent shredded at 3 a.m. while their kids were in it. Number 10. 3 of anything means help. Third pattern break, and it's the most elegant rule in the woods. 3 of anything is a distress signal. 3 whistle blasts, 3 gunshots, 3 fires in a triangle, 3 flashes, 3 shouts. And the answer from a searcher is always 2. Why 3? Because nature almost never repeats itself in 3s. 1 shot is a hunter, 2 could be luck, 3 is a human being making a decision, and it's audible across a valley as intentional. It's been the standard since the 19th century. It's in the old scout manuals, and it's still what search and rescue listens for right now, in 2026, with all the technology on their trucks. Every kid in a 1950s camp knew it before they knew their multiplication tables. Ask a family in a parking lot at a trailhead today what 3 whistle blasts means, and most of them will guess. That's a piece of knowledge that costs nothing, and we let it go. Number 9. Fells naphtha and cold water. The bar of Fells naphtha in the camp box was there for one reason: poison ivy. And the technique mattered more than the soap. You had about 10 to 15 minutes before the urushiol oil bonded to the skin, and in that window, a hard cold water scrub with a harsh soap could strip most of it off before the reaction ever started. Cold water only. Hot water opens the pores and spreads it, which is the mistake everyone makes. Then, and this is the part families never skipped, everything the kid touched got washed too, because that oil sits active on bootlaces, a dog's fur, and a hatchet handle for months and reinfects you in September. A bar cost 15 cents. Modern cleansers do the same job for $8, but the real lesson was speed. Old campers scrubbed at the creek within minutes. We wait until it itches, which is roughly 12 hours too late. Number 8. Baking soda for everything that stings. The box of baking soda in the chuck box was a pharmacy. Wasp and bee stings got a thick paste of soda and water pressed on for 15 minutes, and the alkaline paste helped neutralize the acidic venom, while the cool moisture pulled the swelling down. Mosquito bites got the same. Ant bites, same. There was a companion trick for the tender-skinned: a wet compress of cold creek water first to slow the blood flow, then the paste. Some families swore by meat tenderizer instead, and there was logic to it since poppin' breaks down protein and the venom is protein. Scientists have argued about how much it actually helps ever since. But here's what nobody argues about. The soda paste calmed the kid down, and a calm kid stops scratching, and a kid who stops scratching doesn't turn a sting into an infected wound 30 miles from a doctor. Number 7. The lid, the mirror, the flash. Every camp box had a signal mirror, or the coffee can lid, or a compact from mom's purse. And the aiming trick was taught to kids as a game so they'd remember it. Hold 2 fingers in a V. Put the target, an airplane, or a distant ridge, in the notch. Then flash the light across your own fingers until it crosses the target. That's it. A 3-inch mirror on a clear day throws a flash that has been seen from over 10 miles out. And from an aircraft, it's the brightest thing in a forest of green. No batteries, no signal. Works as long as the sun does. Air search pilots will tell you flat out that a mirror flash beats an orange tent, a fire, and a phone. We stopped carrying them because it felt primitive. It isn't primitive. It's a flashlight powered by a star. Number 6, never drink where you can't see upstream. The rule had 2 halves and families recited both. First, your camp goes downstream of your water. Wash pot, dishwater, latrine, the dog, all of it happens below where you drink, and never within 100 feet of the bank. Second, if you didn't watch that water come out of the rock, boil it. The old standard was a rolling boil for 10 minutes at low elevation and longer up high. And mothers held to it with a pocket watch because giardia and dysentery in a kid in the backcountry is not a stomachache. It's a dehydration emergency with a 2-day drive attached. Modern science actually softened this one. The CDC says a rolling boil for 1 minute kills everything that matters, 3 minutes at high altitude. Grandma was being paranoid by a factor of 10, but note which direction her error ran. Nobody ever died from water that was too boiled. Number 5, dry socks at noon. 2 pairs of wool socks per kid, and at midday, no matter what, everybody sat on a log and swapped. The wet pair got tied to the outside of a pack to dry in the sun and became tomorrow's dry pair. It sounds fussy. It was the difference between a good week and a ruined one. Feet sweat about half a pint a day in a boot, and wet skin in a wet sock softens, then blisters, then tears, and a torn heel 8 miles from the car is how a strong hiker becomes a stretcher. In cold rain, it goes further, into trench foot, which the fathers on those trips had seen firsthand in Europe and never forgot. That's why the rule was enforced like a religion by men who didn't explain themselves. Dry socks at noon. Sit down and do it. Nobody argued twice. Number 4, the buddy system and the count. 4th pattern break. Nobody went anywhere alone. Not to the creek, not to the outhouse at midnight, not 50 feet for firewood. And at every trail junction, every water crossing, every time the group stopped, somebody counted heads out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out loud, so everybody heard the number. It felt excessive on a marked trail. Here's why it wasn't. Almost nobody gets lost dramatically. They get lost in the 90 seconds it takes a group to walk on while a 7-year-old stops to look at a frog. By the time anyone notices, the child has taken a fork, and the 2 groups are moving apart at 3 miles an hour in different directions. The counting closed that gap to under a minute. Every time. Modern parents count in their heads, which isn't counting. Say the number out loud. That's the whole trick, and it's still the best one. Number 3, 30 and 30. The mountain thunderstorm was the thing the old-timers actually feared, and they read it like a book. Cumulus stacking up vertically by early afternoon meant off the ridge by 2, no discussion, no summit, no arguing about how close you were. And the rule they used is the one the National Weather Service teaches word for word today. See the flash, count the seconds to the thunder, and if you reach 30 or less, that strike is within 6 miles, and you are already inside the danger zone. Get low, off the water, out of the open, away from the tallest tree, and stay there 30 minutes after the last thunder, because the trailing strike is the one that gets people. 30 and 30. Old campers didn't have the phrase, but they had the behavior. We now check radar on a phone we can't get service on and walk up the ridge anyway. Number 2, somebody knows where you are. Before the wagon left the driveway, a piece of paper went to 2 places, the ranger station and a neighbor's kitchen counter. Where we're going, which trailhead, which route, what the car looks like and its plate, how many of us, when to worry. And that last line was the whole point, because it converted a missing family into a search that started at a known hour instead of whenever somebody happened to notice. The ranger's logbook at the trailhead served the same purpose, which is why fathers made a ceremony of signing it while the kids groaned in the car. Search and rescue teams say the same thing now that they said then. The single biggest factor in surviving a backcountry emergency isn't gear or skill. It's how fast someone figures out you're overdue. It cost a stamp and 2 minutes. We post the trip online afterward instead. Number 1, nobody sleeps until the fire is cold. And the last thing that happened every night was a ritual with no shortcuts. Let the fire burn down instead of piling on. Spread the coals flat with a stick. Pour water. Listen for the hiss. Stir. Pour again. Then, and this was the part that made it real, somebody put a bare hand flat on the ashes. If you couldn't hold your palm there, it wasn't out. And you started over, cold to the touch, every time. Then the head count, out loud, by name, and only then did anybody get in a bag. Those 2 minutes carried everything the old way believed. That fire is the one thing in camp that can kill everybody, including the forest and the family 3 sites over. That your children are counted, not assumed, and that you don't get to rest until you've checked, not because you're afraid, but because you're responsible. That's the whole list. And here's what strikes me about all 25. Not one of them cost money. A whistle, a trench, a count out loud, a hand on cold ashes. We replaced every one of them with something that needs a battery or a signal, and we call that progress. Try one this summer. Tie a whistle on a kid. Say the number out loud. Then tell me in the comments which one your dad or your grandpa drilled into you, because I know some of you learned these the hard way and I want to hear it. They weren't superstitions. They were the reason everybody came home.